Now that we're 8 years away from the 9/11 events, what we're going to see is an increase, but it's related to the fact that the war on terror is ebbing in their mind, and they've got room to do what they want to do.
Leonard Zeskind, how much of a threat do you see as the white nationalist movement today? I mean, von Brunn was writing this stuff. He was writing books. He was keeping a website. He could be watched. Do you think this was preventable? How do you think the government should be monitoring these groups?
Well, I'm not sure that I'm ready to set government policy on this issue. What I can say is that the people that are residents of this country can stand up and say to the white nationalists in the anti-immigrant movement that they support human rights for all people. I think we can go out and do peer organizing among young people and middle-aged people now that are joining the skinhead white power music scene. I think we can stand up and say this stuff is wrong. And I think that in the long run is a more important way of curbing this problem than simply relying on police powers from the government.
How many people would you say are involved in this movement?
I'd say there's about 30,000 hardcore members. I don't tend to, some people measure this movement by the number of organizations. Since many of the people have cross-organizational memberships and skip from one organization to the other, or one organization falls apart and 3 organizations take its place, I tend to look at the aggregate number of folks. It's about 30,000 in the hardcore center of this. I'd say there's somewhere between 200,000 and 250,000 what I call active supporters. These are people that read the publications, go to the meetings, read the websites, donate money. And then there's a third layer, which was tapped by Pat Buchanan and David Duke in the Louisiana. And this is people that will support it in a voting booth, but won't get out on the streets with the National Socialist Movement and march around in swastikas.
And the connection between our white nationalists here in the United States and groups in other parts of the world, clearly in Europe there's a resurgence of neo-Nazi organizations and groups?
Well, I think what we can say is that there have been long-standing ties between white nationalists in the U.S. and those in Europe. Francis Parker Yockey, one of the people cited by von Brunn, Francis Parker Yockey was an American. He was in the American Army right after World War II, and he became part of the neo-Nazi resurgence in Europe in the immediate post-war era. What we know today is that numbers of organizations have direct organizational links to the French National Front, to the British National Party, to the German Democratic National Party in Germany. And they look at, for example, the last European elections to see how their people did. They pay more attention to the events in Europe than some of the people that are in the media today.
Finally, Leonard Zeskind, can you talk about how you got involved with researching the white nationalist movement going back 30 years ago?
Well, I'm older than 30 years ago. I've been an adult, and I began as a generic anti-racist activist. I came of the opinion in the mid-'60s that white people needed to organize other white people to oppose racism. It was an idea promoted in the mid-'60s. And I took that on as part of what I wanted to do. In about 1978, we started to see an upsurge in white supremacist violence again. And then in 1979, there were a number of events and shootings. At the time, I wasn't a professional in the business at all. I was just an average rank-and-file community activist type.
We're coming up on the 30th anniversary of the Greensboro massacre in November. What was your relationship with the protests around that?
Well, on February 2nd, 1980, a number of civil rights and religious groups, as well as some of the organizations on the left came together for a big march in Greensboro. And I was one of several people in Kansas City that drove all night into Greensboro so that we could march in solidarity and in opposition to the shootings in Greensboro.
Explain what happened there. Explain what the Greensboro massacre is.
What happened was there was a group of anti-Klan activists in North Carolina that were busy physically confronting the Klan whenever possible. And the Klan decided to shoot back, as it often does. And the Klan came in with a caravan of, I think it was 14 cars, but I might be wrong about that. People slowly got out of their car, popped the trunks, pulled out their weapons, and started shooting people in the crowd. It was an awful massacre. The people did not get convicted in state courts. One of the many cases of racist violence where state murder charges were not successfully prosecuted. And it opened up, if you will, a whole stream of violence in North Carolina.
And again, the killings yesterday, Von Brunn opening fire in the Holocaust Museum. Last night, there was supposed to be a big opening of a play by Janet Lamhorn Cohen, who is Janet Langhart Cohen, who's a journalist and a playwright, the wife of William Cohen, the former defense secretary. In fact, William Cohen, was there in the museum right near the shooter. Her play was about Emmett Till and Anne Frank, putting them together in conversation. The 80th anniversary of Anne Frank's birth is tomorrow, June 12th. She was born June 12th, 1929. And Emmett Till, the 14-year-old boy from Chicago, went down to Money, Mississippi in 1955. His mom sent him down to be with family, and he was lynched by a white mob. Do you think that could have anything to do with, among those who were going to be attending was Eric Holder, the Attorney General? Final words, Leonard Zeskind.
Well, I'm not sure that we know the last word about the Von Brunn incident in Washington. I think it's a mistake for the Washington police to say they're going to do an overnight investigation to determine what the motives were and whether or not other people were involved. I think that it's an indication that we've got a problem, that we need to learn about it, we need to pay attention, and we need to stand up and say no to this white nationalist movement.
Leonard Zeskind, I want to thank you for being with us. Your new book, Blood and Politics, The History of the White Nationalist Movement from the Margins to the Mainstream. If you'd like a copy of today's show, you can go to our website at democracynow.org. Democracy Now! Produced by Mike Berkshire, producer Aaron Monte, Angela Comment, Steve Martinez, Nicole Salazar, Robbie Karen. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez. Thanks for joining us.